Oh, you love this time of year. Happy holidays, everybody. We've got Thanksgiving football. We've got Black Friday football as well, previewing the holiday slate of games for Week 13 of the NFL season and dipping a little bit into a holiday mailbag as well on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love and appreciate all of our everydayers and seeing a lot of you jumping in here, new listeners with us as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Do it now. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you are listening to your podcast. Subscribing does help us out tremendously. You don't want to miss an episode as we roll through the season and into the off season as well. We'll still be here with you daily talking about the National Football League. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by FanDuel. Get a big return right now on FanDuel because new customers can place just a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right. We're making holiday picks here to kick this off, and a nice slate of games here. But the first holiday pick, and this was in the mailbag, we'll touch on a couple of questions a little bit later as well after we make these picks for Thursday and Friday games. What's your number one pick? You get one pick. What's your one holiday Thanksgiving dish that you got to have?
Ooh, probably stuffing. A little bit of sausage mixed in there. Yeah. My mom's stuffing is really good. Yeah.
It's good the first day. It's good the next day. I'm not big with like doing the turkey sandwiches. In fact, the turkey fan, the turkey and the tryptophan doesn't really hit. You know, I usually just get a little cut of turkey, a little cut of ham, maybe. I'm a sides guy. I mean, give me like the green beans. Like I like the sides of Thanksgiving more than the mains. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. My aunt makes this like cheesy spinach casserole that's really good too. And I never go for the canned cranberries. I mean, that's more the Christmas thing, but
cranberries you can miss me with that for sure. It doesn't need to hit the table, but all the casseroles, it's potatoes, the cheesy potatoes, whatever version of that you got going on, stuffing. It can be out of a box, but homemade stuffing, you get a lot of goodies in there. Love it. I'm a stuffing guy for sure.
Real quick, I'm with you on the turkey. Like, I enjoy it when it's fresh, and even turkey sandwiches late at 7 p.m. or whatever. Cool.
Knock you out.
But then after that, it's like, I've had a lot of turkey lately. The next day, it kind of sits in the fridge. And maybe this is a hot take, but I think I prefer dark meat now.
Dark meat guy. I'm good. I'm good with both.
Dark.
I
get a variety going, but if I only had to pick, I think I'd go dark.
You know what I don't like is like the sweet, like I don't like a sweetness with the ham and like the cloves and all that. I don't think it's a great flavor profile for me, so I don't really hit it. I get a little bit, I don't dislike it, but I don't look forward to it as much as I look forward to the sides.
Stuffing's number one though.
Yeah. And gravy all over.
Gravy over everything. Mashed potatoes, everything. Whatever gravy hits is great.
The best part of turkey existing is so there can be gravy because it's more important than the turkey, in my opinion.
100%.
All right. Who's going to get the gravy on Thanksgiving? We've got a lot of favored home teams in the Thursday slate. And off the air, we were talking about the Packers and Lions. Packers and Lions don't get a long week of rest because they're both playing Thursday night football prime time in week 14 next week. So an interesting one. So short week for Lions and Packers, and they get a full week before next week's Thursday night game in week 14. The early game is the Chicago Bears at 4-7. Going to Detroit to face the 10-1 Lions. The Lions are favored by 10 points here, man.
So we were talking about, remaining schedules yesterday, things like that. No one's compares to the Browns or the Bears going forward. I mean, so I'm glad we didn't even bring them up for playoffs. But starting with this game, I mean, in Detroit on Thanksgiving doesn't sound like a walk in the park either. Mm-hmm. Are you looking at 10-point spread here?
10 points, yes.
I'll still take the points. I mean, I think the Bears defense is highly respectable, aggressive. And maybe it's just a coordinator change, but I'm starting to buy into Caleb and what we're seeing from this offense. And I like that DJ Moore and Allen got more involved, and Swift has been useful, and Komet's okay, but it's mostly about Caleb. I think Caleb can keep this thing close. But it definitely worries me that a national audience, the Dan Campbell Lions, just aren't going to stop with the foot on the accelerator if they have them by the throat. I mean, they're going to run the score up like crazy, and Goff throws 6 touchdowns. Like, those things could be in play.
Right. And it probably hurts the Bears more than the Lions because they're on the road on the short week, and the new offensive coordinator and the Lions can just like implement the game plan they already know that they're going to do, and just they're going to try to pound you. They're going to run it with whatever, all the monsters they have. They're going to run it, the multi-headed monsters and Gibbs and
Montgomery's going to play, though. I mean, at least it's questionable at this point, right?
Yeah.
You get former team, but I don't think that matters.
Of all the teams, is probably the one that hurts the least. If your number one back, quote unquote, is not out, because your number 2 is kind of your number 1 there anyway. And the dynamic ability that Gibbs has, I'm going to give up the points here. I think my intuition tells me that that's a Thursday night game, division rivals, and short rest. It's probably going to be a little bit closer, maybe a little bit more of a grinded out game. But I just think that the Lions are too good and the Bears are not good enough. And I think there's a chance for a big Lions blowout here. So I'm going to reluctantly give up the points, but I don't really like this one.
I kind of feel like if I lose this bet, it'll be by 20, not 11.
Right. That's a good way to put it. That is a good way to put it. Looking at the middle game here, it is Giants Cowboys, always a good one. And it is the New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys. We're recording this early, so I was hoping as we recorded this podcast that we'd have news on Daniel Jones, because a lot of people want the Cowboys to sign Daniel Jones so he could play against Tommy Cutlets, but that is definitely not going to happen here. And I'll be shocked, and let me know if I got that wrong, because we don't know what's going to happen with Daniel Jones yet as of this recording. But Cooper Rush looked good, and the Cowboys defense looked a lot better with Micah Parsons than it had. And the Giants are a disaster. What did they get, 40-something yards last week without Daniel Jones? So certainly Daniel Jones wasn't the problem in New York. I think we know that. Although Daniel Jones, didn't deserve the contract he had. He's not the reason, the only reason the Giants were a bad football team, have been a bad football team. Cowboys at home are favored by 4 points. They should be favored in this game. Is 4 points too much for 2? And look, the Cowboys aren't a good football team either.
No, they're not, but I kind of like the life they showed. And I've always thought Rush was a adequate player, better than his first game or 2. His arm strength is terrible, but he gets the ball to CeeDee Lamb, and that might be enough. And I think their run game is okay in Dallas, and as opposed to horrendous. It's pretty bad. But most of this just comes down to me for 2 things. One thing you said was Parsons is back, and I think that makes gives the defense a lot more teeth. And I don't see the Giants really blocking anyone. And I don't like the state of the Giants at all. Neighbors is calling out the coach. There's all these reports that they've lost the locker room. The quarterback situation kind of speaks for itself. I'm sure everyone in that locker room thinks Jones is the best quarterback that they had, and that's just a bad feel that you're just going to let him go. Mm-hmm. And I think Jerry's team on Thanksgiving takes it personally a little bit,
The matchup I don't like is the Cowboys' offensive line against the Giants' defensive line.
No question. Thibodeau's back, too.
Is that enough for me? No, I don't think it is. I'm going to give up the points and take the Dallas Cowboys. Next, let's talk Dolphins Packers on Thursday, the late game there. We've got a Friday night special here, a Black Friday division matchup between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs. What's looking like the biggest line of the week. And then we're going to dip a little bit into the Peacock and Williamson mailbag. What does the leash look like going into 2025 for some of these young quarterbacks who struggled early in their career? Levis, Young, and Jets versus Giants. Which organization would you want to be in control of? Who's in a better spot right now going into the end of the 2024 season? Next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. It's the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you do, you pick more or less on at least 2 players' stat projections on Prize Picks for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with Prize Picks. And by the way, you're not playing against those 10 million other members. You're just playing against the stat projections at Prize Picks. So you think Justin Jefferson's going to go over 83.5 receiving yards. Lamar Jackson passed for more than 1.5 touchdowns. Cook up hot takes with your friends and will win real money with your crew and run your game with Prize Picks and a Thanksgiving little freebie here with Tyreek Hill only needing a half a receiving yard for you to hit on one of your projections. And then all you need is one more correct stat projection and you can win that real cash. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. This episode also brought to you by Skylight Frames. Go to skylightframe.com/NFL, a special offer for our listeners. And this is for the folks that struggle out there sometimes to find the perfect gift during the holiday season. Maybe gift giving isn't your thing, or you're buying for someone who has everything, it seems, especially, it's always dad, right? Like, well, what do you get for dad? He always just buys whatever he needs. And how about this? We've got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame with your whole family. Your whole family will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. Setup is super easy, takes less than 60 seconds. You can invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or email. You can set it all up before you even give the gift with pictures. If someone, mom or dad, maybe they're not even technically gifted enough to mess with it at all, they don't have to. You just do it on your phone. You send the photos to them and they can see the photos and enjoy your family, especially if you have some family that's maybe far away and they want to see the grandkids. And now a special limited time offer for our listeners. Get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NFL. That's Skylight, SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NFL. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/NFL. Miami Dolphins at the Green Bay Packers. The night game, the late game, the charging Dolphins showing signs of life. The Green Bay Packers in control with at least a wild card berth in the NFC, and maybe could have something to say about the Detroit Lions. And look, the Lions and Packers could be tied if things go the Packers' way over the course of the next 7 days, because they're going to play the Lions on Thursday Night Football next week. 8-3 Packers hosting the 5-6 Dolphins. Pack favored by 3.5.
I think Miami could win this game. So I think 3.5 is too many. And I really like how Tua's playing. The offensive line's held up. They're getting the ball to their weapons. I'm still not sure Tyreek's 100%. Like, there's something a little off with him. But Jonnu, Waddle came up through big last week. Chan's involved heavily every week. I think they're going to score points. And from what I understand, weather shouldn't be a factor. It's probably somewhat of a slow track, but so be it. I think the Packers' D is middle of the road right now, and Miami's D is playing pretty well. But I do expect a lot of points. There's a lot of weaponry on the field. But if you're going to give me points, I'm going to take Miami. I think this should be closer to a pick 'em.
It's a night game, so it'll be cold. Does that affect the Dolphins enough coming from Miami to Green Bay? I like the Green Bay Packers quite a bit, and I think that just these two teams specifically, I'm going to take the Packers, and I'm going to give up the 3.5 points because I think the Packers are a little bit better. The Dolphins looked great, but they were playing a bad football team last week. And the Packers looked great against a kind of a bad football team as well in the 49ers with what they were throwing out there with the preseason roster. But I think the Packers are in a place where they could take advantage of the Dolphins' weaknesses, and the Dolphins aren't going to run up the score on the Green Bay Packers like they did last week. I like the Packers front against the Dolphins. I like on both sides of the ball. And for that reason, cold weather, Dolphins, Miami, Green Bay night game. They're going to see their breath, if nothing else, even if it's not, snowing or anything like that. Give me the Green Bay Packers here. Night game, prime time, Thursday night. I'm going to give up the 3.5.
I understand it. I kind of like what the Dolphins are doing.
You can put the Dolphins to bed, maybe a little bit.
Could be. That would go a long way.
5-7 Dolphins. They'll be in big trouble. The Friday game, we've got a noon Pacific start, which is a weird time, 3 p.m. For you on the East Coast there in America. No idea what time in other places of the world, if you folks that are listening to this podcast. It is the Las Vegas Raiders at 2-9 visiting the 10-1 Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs favored by 12.5.
I'm reluctantly taking the Raiders. I mean, as the Chiefs just found out, it's hard to beat a team by 13 points. I mean, late in the game, the Raiders come back and get some garbage stuff. Max Crosby could have a strip sack and all of a sudden things go wonky, but I don't feel good about it. I just don't love where the Chiefs are at. I really dislike where the Raiders are at. We're going to get O'Connell in this game. Can Bowers and Myers, etc., at least keep this thing sort of close? Maybe. Division game at a weird time. I'll take points.
The Chiefs don't blow anybody out. They almost lost to the thinking Carolina Panthers last week. It's just 12.5 is too many points, and it has to be a big line, but it's just too many points from what we've seen from the Chiefs. Even though they should be able to blow out the Raiders, they're just not blowing team. They just have not been that team. Are they going to be that team on a short week?
I mean, if this was the Bills, Eagles, Lions against the Raiders, I'd probably lay the points, but I just don't think Kansas City's explosive enough to rack up 40 points on these guys.
They're just not playing that way. They could, but it's kind of like the Lions one where it's like you don't think it's going to be 13, it's going to be 20, or it's going to be you're going to win the Raiders side of the bet.
Mm-hmm. So there you have it on those.
Yep, those are those. Let's do the let's get into the mailbag a little bit here.
Yeah, we have some good questions.
This is a really phenomenal question, and it's something that we have to start thinking about here. As a 49ers guy, I cover the San Francisco 49ers, Locked On 49ers daily here on the network. Give us a subscribe.
Check it out.
I dropped my first mock draft after what we saw from the 49ers. Like, you know what? This might be the beginning of the offseason. And just, almost for fun, almost like as a statement saying, wow, is it mock draft Monday already for the 49ers, right? And that's where the Niners are right now. They've got to do a lot. They got to go like 5-1 the rest of the way, probably, to either win the West or sneak into a wild card somehow. And that's a tough ask. And there's a lot of teams that have been doing that as well. We're going to talk about the Niners, I think, a little bit here. But I want to start with the quarterbacks, the young quarterbacks. And, Carolina Panthers fans have been having mock draft Mondays in week 3, right? In recent seasons. Has it not been good for them? The Titans as well. So let's start with Levis, because the question originally was about Levis, but we're going to expand it into some other players. Michael says, would you give Levis another year in a not great quarterback class if you're the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah. So a couple reaching thoughts on this question, which is a good one, is whether he likes it or not, Levis is at a disadvantage against like Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson because he was a second-round pick. He wasn't a top 5 pick. He's just going to have a shorter leash inherently anyways. We can move away from him. Yeah, we don't have that much invested. Who cares? I hate the comment on the draft now because I'm on stage 2 of 10 in my draft prep, or 3 maybe. I know the names. I watch them casually. I read everything I can, but I'm not well versed on it. I don't think this is going to be a Pickett, Willis, Ritter class, but I think it's going to be closer to that than May, Daniels, Williams, Nix class for sure. And I think that's the huge advantage that these young quarterbacks have going for them, is they may have a case that they're better than door number 2 already, and still a better prospect. And it might be the year that you say, well, we'll give them another year. We'll lean that direction. And if they're terrible, we might have the first overall pick next year, which is a better class. So Levis, to me, has probably the shortest leash of those 3. You plan on just talking about those 3? I think that's probably safe.
I think that's the smart way to go about it if it pop into our minds. But with Levis, I think the leash should be really short
Yeah.
But the draft just might not be the place. So to me, it's veteran quarterback. Like, can you pry away like a Kirk Cousins if the Falcons decide to go with Penix next year?
I like
Do you
that.
sign a Darnold? Do you Daniel Jones? He's going to be a free agent. Do you
Rodgers
sign,
or Stafford?
right? Yeah, somebody to compete that might actually beat out Levis. That's a veteran is probably the way I'd go about it. And look, we're 4 months away with the evaluations. Maybe someone does maybe the cream does rise to the crop and you're in a situation, you're the Titans and like, man, Shedeur Sanders is there and he's too talented. We got to take him.
Yeah.
But
Then you take them no matter what. I mean,
right.
if there's somebody that's really good.
And they'll know that by the time free agency starts, if they think there's even a possibility that one of those players would be there for them. I think more than likely you let Levis compete, and it's a short leash, and you have to bring in someone who could beat him out. You have to have legitimate competition, but it's probably going to be a veteran quarterback because then you're not just going to another rookie and have another wasted season with an even worse option than what you have in Levis. That's the way I do it with Levis. I think it's a little bit different than the other quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think you and I are very much agreement of this over the years that if there's a clear upgrade, you take it. If you're picking first overall and Sanders is worth the first top 3 pick, you take it.
You make that
these guys. So it's these guys also haven't written their book yet this year too. Any of them could fall on their face. They're all starting to show promise, but we also have a lot of football left too. We may by December, by Christmas. It's Thanksgiving now. By Christmas, we might be like, oh, Bryce Young's horrible. We got anything's better than that. That's still in the cards.
For example, the Bears a couple of years ago, they kept Fields, but they leveraged the pick to get the value out of it. If the quarterback is there, you either have to take the quarterback or someone has to buy it out from you.
And then you can, the Bears fortunately got the first overall pick and got Caleb Williams
because of that trade. Yeah.
But if they hadn't, if Carolina didn't end up being good, they still had 2 first-round picks that they could have got up to 3 and got May or somebody. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They still had a lot of cards in their hand.
Yeah, that would be an alternate what if. Who was Dan? What's his name? The ESPN guy or NFL Network guy? He used to do the what or the
Levitard maybe or
no the NFL.
Yeah.
NFL, and like what would happen? So like, would we see the Bo Nix Bears right now, or the Michael Penix Bears right now, or
Bears took Mahomes instead of Trubisky?
Right? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Bears have a lot of those. In fact,
the Bears have a lot of those. Yeah.
Let's talk young Richardson. A couple other young quarterbacks here next, and then get on to the other subjects of our mailbag, like Jets versus Giants. Who's got a better outlook right now going forward between the two New York franchises? The final segment of today's episode of Peacock and Williamson, brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Get ready to tackle the NFL action right now, and you can get a big return on FanDuel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. Maybe you got a belly full of turkey or stuffing, or maybe you're going back for seconds. You're like, I'm going to be on the couch for 9 hours today. What else can I do to get in on the action? Well, you can find live in-game betting, so much more, all the lines, all the props for Thanksgiving NFL action, and so much more NBA, NHL at FanDuel, or even just check the stats and the latest play-by-play and all that. You can find that in the same place where you place your bets, FanDuel.com. So get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com, or download the app. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Bryce Young. What's the leash on Bryce Young? What's the 2025 plan for the Carolina Panthers here?
I'm leaning more and more to that he's going to be the opening day starter with a pretty good group around him, a defensive-minded offseason, maybe one more addition on offense, a true #1 receiver, T. Higgins maybe, or who knows, but mostly a defensive-minded. And Flacco's a bad example, but like if you rewind 5 years, maybe a Schaub, a McCown, mentor type in the room would make some sense too, not direct competition, but big brother. You know what I mean?
You got to see this one through. I think it's the opposite situation
Yeah.
with Levis in Carolina. And again, is there going to be a quarterback there that you're like, wow, this guy's better than what Bryce Young was as a prospect? You got to finish the development. He gets another year. If it's a disaster, it's a disaster. Hopefully there's a better quarterback class for you in 2026. And he's shown enough signs that maybe there's more there if you get some more talent, and you probably just got to throw money at the offense and try to continue to build this thing before you blow it up. I think we're on agreement there with Bryce Young and the direction for the Carolina Panthers. And maybe it doesn't work out, but you got to give it a shot.
Jacoby Brissett.
I mean, Andy Dalton, they kind of already have that guy. I think the right plan already. Veteran quarterback, not threatening, but that can help everything's about helping your quarterback.
Yep. And Indy, I think, is the most likely to stick with Richardson, because I would hope when you drafted him, you knew that this was a project.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hope you wouldn't diverse from that road too quickly.
Do you just continue to run it back with like Flacco and Richardson?
I don't know.
And
I hate that they're so different.
It feels like there's more, even though they're further away, it feels like more answers in Carolina, because you know what the plan is. For the Colts, it's hard to sell the fan base on, just more time. Just got to let it marinate a little bit. It's kind of hard. He's like, you got young pass catchers. You
that offense could be good
or something. It's just like, more time. That's a little bit tougher sell.
It is, because I would think it's going to be more of a defensive offseason for you.
Yeah.
You're pretty well set in most spots. Maybe you add a tight end of note or something like that, but yeah, I think it's just more time, which I don't know if you end up nine wins this year and the rest of the season goes okay and you show promise. I think your fan base is okay with that.
Yeah. And a lot of times when we've learned around the NFL that some quarterbacks do just need more time, but usually they don't get that at the first franchise that they're playing with.
But we knew Richardson needed more time a year ago.
Right. Exactly. And when the thing you need is to play, gotta let him play.
You have an easy answer, right? He may fall on his face, but this is the bed you made.
And then if it doesn't look good this time next year, you're talking Ballard. You're talking probably, upheaval.
Probably.
Some people want to get rid of Ballard already, and I understand why.
I sort of get it, yeah.
But you got to see again. I think you got to be patient and see this one through with Indy. Coach, GM doesn't work. Quarterback, then you start over.
I lean that way too.
Different Michael asked a question about, this is directed towards me, about the 49ers. He says, I'm sure you're sick of talking about this, but where did it all go wrong for SF this year? Super Bowl loser curse, too many injuries, bad draft. If they miss the playoffs, is Kyle actually on the hot seat? I'll start with the last question. Kyle is not on the hot seat. Some people are calling for his head. You go to the NFC Championship game 4 out of 5 years. You go to Super Bowls, and you're 500 and you're going to get fired. That's kind of extreme. I do think Kyle Shanahan needs to look in the mirror and can improve, and a little bit stubborn in some ways. It's like, okay, and I think there's a lot of teams running a similar scheme. One of the things we're seeing, a lot of defenses do to a lot of teams, but especially Kyle Shanahan's offense right now is using your rules against you, right? So you know how the Niners call their protections. Well, you're going to show them something that's going to get them in the wrong protection. Then you're going to utilize that ability to muddy the picture for the quarterback. And the Niners are a timing-based team. So if you make the process slower for the quarterback, it's going to hurt Kyle Shanahan's offense a lot. And defenses are figuring out how to do that a little bit more, and they're stealing from each other. And showing a lot of different looks. Who's the hot, who's blitzing, where are you coming from? I don't know. And so just giving you a tick slower on the timing, and that's kind of messing some things up on offense for the 49ers this year. And injuries are a big part of it. That was why this week you can't play a football game without Bosa and Purdy at this point if you're the 49ers. Brain drain. They've lost a ton of coaches and coordinators that are all over the league now. Mentally, physically exhausted is part of the injuries and part of the mental. So I think the answer is kind of all of it right now.
I tend to agree. And by no means do I think Shanahan's seat's even lukewarm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff, right. But I do wonder, this is probably a whole podcast. And for you, it's probably a whole off season. Is the Super Bowl window slamming shut, or is it just gently closing?
It's just a reminder that you got to retool. The Niners are one of the older teams, and you're getting a little old, getting a little slow. You've got Hall of Fame players, but some of them might not. Like Chris McCaffrey doesn't look like Chris McCaffrey. He wasn't the Band-Aid to fix the team that they thought when he comes back, and that's what happens when you're a 29-year-old running back. You start collecting Social Security, and that's just the way it is in the league. And Trent Williams might not be around, and so you've got to sort of retool and figure out. And you look back at last year, that was their best shot, clearly, and it's going to be a different window with a little bit different group, and you got to figure out how much you're going to pay Brock Purdy. And so it's a lot of questions. This is an important offseason for the 49ers and how they retool this thing.
It's awful difficult picking 30, 31st, 29th every year.
They weren't even picking 31st because they traded 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. So there's a little talent vacuum there. Where do you find offensive tackles and big time defensive linemen? Find them with those picks, and they didn't have it.
Traded good picks for McCaffrey too. There's been a lot going out the door. A
lot of expensive players too, and so but they do have a good rookie class this year, which is going to help that as well. Last one, real quick here. Let's finish it up. Jets or Giants? JDS wants to know worst position moving forward. Jets or Giants? Whose outlook is better?
Okay, I'll try to be as quick as possible here. I think obviously the city they play in is a wash. The draft capital's probably about a wash at this point. They're both pretty terrible. I would rather work for the Giants ownership than the Jets. The divisions are about the same. They both have a big bad wolf in Philly and Buffalo. I looked at the salary cap. Right now, the Giants have $61 million for next year. The Jets have $32. But I don't know if Daniel Jones's dead money and stuff is factored in there. So they're both kind of middle of the road with salary cap. Giants are a little better. So I think this comes down to one very simple question. Would you rather have no quarterback or Aaron Rodgers? And I think that's a debate we could have for a long time,
I would rather be – this one's easy for me. I'd rather be the Jets because I like the pieces they have. You could turn this around, I think, really quick. The only thing would be ownership because it's a longer rebuild, I think, in New York. They've got some pieces there, but I just think with the Jets, if you start talking neighbors and the defensive front,
I think that's closer than you think.
Maybe it's a little closer. The Jets have put themselves in a weird position roster-wise too because they built around Aaron Rodgers. So if ownership is the big deciding factor, then I could absolutely see that it's close enough that you go with the New York Giants there. And looking at the draft, are you like just being one pick ahead potentially for the Giants if that quarterback is there? I don't know if this is the quarterback year. I think expectations are different. I think you're more under pressure to win with the Giants because they expect it more than the New York Jets as well.
Maybe. I mean, at least people my age that are Giants fans remember winners. Not many Jets fans remember winners,
Right. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, when you factor in ownership and if you believe the rosters are close enough,
I think they're close. I mean, Neighbors and Sauce and Garrett Wilson and Lawrence, and there's some building blocks on both teams.
Jets by an edge, but I could be talked out of it. If the position is GM and ownership is so important.
I just don't know what Rodgers is the elephant in the room though. Like, I don't know if I want him back. I mean, I probably don't. I probably want to start over and get some other quarterback.
That's not a problem for me, I don't think, because you just get a different quarterback.
I mean, I guess you just cut him if you want.
Yeah. Yeah. You can cut him, trade him. There might be a team that wants him. I don't know. The contract wise, it might not be a tradable asset. They're actually not too far apart though.
No, it's a good conversation.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen. Enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. Matt and I not doing a show Thursday. We'll be back Friday morning though, afternoonish, noontime, lunchtime on your, if you're an East Coaster morning for me, breaking down everything that we saw from the Thanksgiving games and making picks for the rest of the Week 13 schedule right here, Peacock and Williamson.